Hello, YouTuber Woobers. This is actually my second video in a short period of time. Something else I've been pondering about, and I know there are some good gurus out there on power, and I'm working on a very limited budget. And as you know, I have a battery bank outside. Could use a little updating, as some batteries need to be replaced, but that's not going to happen until spring or summer when I can access it safely. As long as I have uh, my boot on, I can't really wander around outside. I certainly can't carry anything heavy if I don't have the balancing power of an ankle on both legs. So um, I really can't mess around with that battery bank. I've been thinking about adding a new battery bank in the closet using AGMs, which again is a pricey thing to do. I probably have to put it on a battery isolator or a battery switch so that I can switch between the two battery banks when one gets low. So that's a possibility for the main battery bank. The other thing is to take the stress off of the battery bank by this module here, which is not on that side of the house, and it's kind of like a different power. Um, when I'm on the grid, the whole house is on the same panel ish. It's just that side of the house is on a sub panel, and this side of the house is on the second main panel. I don't think I've shot a video of that particular power room. It's just a closet. It's got the main panel, 200 amp panel, and then I have a 100 amp panel that feeds most of the new circuits in this area. And this wall here, and on the other side of the wall, there's a pass through there where my green screen is. I've seen pictures of my green screen. But on the other side is the power for the TV and everything. It's on this circuit on this side, just because as I worked on the house, it kind of went room by room. And I didn't get to that particular part. So that's not really an issue. So when there's a power failure, I like to be able to keep my router. I guess if I just keep the router on and not the TV in the computer, I can conserve a lot of power. Printer, turn everything off here and just keep the router on. That'll last longer, depending on how long we go through. Cell service is limited. So some parts of the house, cell service kind of works, but I can't use the phone for internet. If I had a smartphone, I still probably can't use the phone for internet because the reception up here is on the edges of life and the edge of the world, and the other side of the world just drops off into nowhere. So it's useful to have this area live so I can be watching, the power company and the power outage maps, and be able to watch your YouTube videos. Of course, those are important, and it's good to be able to have access to the internet that way. You go through withdrawals if you're away from YouTube for more than a couple hours. So right now, this place right here is on a UPS. It's a Schneider backup at 5,500, I guess, watt hour, which isn't really all that much. And I have a 50 amp sealed battery on it. I have a second 50 amp sealed battery over there that came in from Amazon, but I have to have somebody move it over here because it's too heavy for me. And I was going to hook that up in parallel with this one. It would give me 100 amps, 100 amp hours. But I was also thinking about doing was replacing this UPS with either an inverter charger or an inverter and a charger. I would like to do is go with an MVP solar 12 volt, 800 watt inverter charger. And you've seen them. Most of you out there have seen the units. It would get me into that and be able to play with the screens and get to learn the box. It would just be right here somehow. I mount it somewhere. It's about 12 inches high, 9 inches wide. It's not a real big unit. It's not like the 24 or the 48 volt units. And it's about I think it's like 330 shipped from Taiwan. I can get it from Amazon actually for 380. There's some advantage of ordering through Amazon because you have Amazon be standing behind things instead of eBay. eBay's kind of funky, and we all know that. It's still cheaper from eBay. But and then go with a string of 50 amp batteries, and I can always add to it. It would be more power than I need over in this corner, but I could use the power elsewhere. Like I could run it down and plug in the refrigerator to it. Wouldn't last long unless I really have a good sized battery bank. And it all depends on how long we're off the power grid. So then the other two places is over on that side. I can run on the main power grid. I can run that main power grid on this side too. Hasn't really been tested very well. But, and I think there's a lot of loss in the conversion because I have to take 120, it's a 3,000 watt, 24 volt pure sine wave inverter from Ames, which is what's on that side. There's two of them, as you remember, in that closet. And it has to run through a transformer that steps it up to 240 volts to run the panel on this side. So I'm sure there's a bit of loss there. So I'm not going to get the full 25 amps. I'm probably going to get less than that. And it's whether it's worth it or not. It really depends on how long the power failure is. Now I could go with lithium batteries, but they're really, from what I've read and stuff about them, is that you got to get a good battery in order for you to know that it's going to last you a while. Because otherwise they may not last, and then you're basically got a boat anchor. Once you go over your 30 days with Amazon, they're not going to take it back. The companies are scarce, you're going to have trouble, returning it. So, a Battleborn is $1,000 for a 100 amp hour battery. It's interesting, but it's So I'm not sure where to go with that. I could also do is I already have a 12 volt 750 watt modified sine wave inverter that I could use over in this corner and then just get a charger for the battery. And that would work also. It wouldn't be as much bells and whistles compared to the MPV, but it's still a possibility. And it would solve the problem. And that's about 100 and I think it's $165 for a battery charger converter. So essentially, you'd run on the converter all the time, and when you'd lose power, it would switch. It would, run just on batteries and not on the AC on the grid. And that's a cheaper solution. It's half the price, and that would run this area around here because heck, it's a really crappy. From what I've heard, it's not a really even a good modified inverter. The UPSs, unless you buy a pure sine wave UPS, which of course costs an extra $100 or $150. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Over here, I have my little area, I have my BiPAP that I have to have able to run, and some other medical stuff, and of course my TV. All the things that keep you from it going crazy in the dark. And a couple of lights. Not a lot, but so I have that stuff to deal with on that side. And I could run off the main battery bank for all that. Also, I just wonder if I take the TV and put it on its own UPS, it would actually give me some time. If there's any money wasted on satellite battery systems, can go into the money to beef up the main battery bank. So, my systems, they just kind of, the original design was to build a huge system and be able to run the whole house off a huge system. But to have satellite systems also, it is also useful. So it takes the burden off of that system. The longer that system can run, the better. Now, Chris, the other issue is that I have a heater, a pipe wrap heater that goes down to the well. So if I lose power and the temperature drops down below, 10 degrees or so, there's a chance that line could freeze. Even at 20 degrees, the line could freeze. So I have a heater on it. It's on it during the winter time to protect it from freezing. And then, of course, I turn that off in the summer years. And it depends on how bad things get here and for how long. Now, we had an ice storm on Monday, and we were very fortunate. We only lost power for about a half hour or so. But it could have been worse because that snowstorm that we had earlier in the year, we lost power for a day and a half. So, with an ice storm, you could lose a lot of lines down. So we were very fortunate up here that we only lost it for a short period of time. It's, I don't know. It's just, it offers its challenges. And the same challenge is people, at least I have more backup. A lot of people don't have backup at all. They lose power and they're in darkness. So I'm just throwing out some ideas. I know somebody here will say, oh, I should go with building my own lithium battery setup, but I'm on a YouTube channel with somebody that is very knowledgeable about uh, lithium battery setups, building batteries and BMSs and stuff. It's particularly the BMS that if you don't have a good quality BMS, the system is just going to fail. The downside about having lead acid batteries are real, but the downside of taking a lithium battery and having it fail on you is also real. A battery bank is going to be indoors. It poses certain issues. And it's outside, it could freeze if the battery bank gets down too low, which I have had happen. So lots of things to think about. And I'm just kind of pondering. Found out that, yeah. So I just kind of like pondering, and I don't have money at the moment. And when I get my retirement check, then I'll try to buy something else for my system, and then the month after that I'll buy something, and the month after that I'll buy something, because I don't have any huge things that happen in my life, and we'll start all over again. So, hey, while I'm out here, I don't know if anybody out there. So, since the 1909 update on Windows for Windows 10, I've had this random problem on both my computers that the mouse buttons flip randomly. There's no rhyme or reason, but I usually use my button left-handed. So the right button is the left button is the select, and then the right button is the right click. But every so often they'll flip, and there's just absolutely no reason for it. I have to go into control panel to the mouse and flip the buttons, and then it'll be fine for. But both computers do it. It's not like it's a single computer, and it does it whether it's a wired mouse or it's a wireless mouse. So if anybody out there has any ideas about it, I've tried doing some searches, and nobody's really popped up an idea about it. So other than that, that's it. So anyone has any ideas out there, I'll welcome anybody's ideas, and there's no stupid ideas. Like, subscribe, and comment, and I hope you have a pleasurable day. End stream. Wouldn't it be nice if you just say end stream, and it would say, oh, do you want to end the stream?